Tonight on Q2, Eyes on the Block.
What do they say? A picture's worth 1,000 words.
A new program unites the police department and the public, aiming to catch criminals on camera.
Hopefully it can deter some crime, maybe catch some criminals in the act of doing these crimes.
Plus, celebrating Black History Month.
These conversations are how we all gonna grow. You know what I mean? Without these conversations, we're all left to our own devices.
We'll take you to a roundtable on race coming up. And Ekalaka Strong.
There's people on that GoFundMe page that I have no clue who their names are.
The community rallying behind a family after their young son suffers second-degree burns in a freak accident. The MTN News starts right now.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. Tonight, Billings police are investigating what they're calling a suspicious death. A body was found just before 4:30 today in the 1600 block of 12th Street West. Detectives were on the scene most of the night, but police say there's no immediate threat to the community. No other information has been released at this point. Now, the family of Beau Beaumont has filed a lawsuit against the owners of America's Wild West. Beaumont was shot and killed in the parking lot of the nightclub during the early morning hours of February 12th. According to a release by Ava Law Group, the lawsuit alleges that America's Wild West violated the law by serving alcohol to 18-year-old Xavier Buffalo before the deadly shooting happened. Buffalo was arrested shortly after the shooting. He's now charged with deliberate homicide. The suit also alleges the bar violated several duties owed to all customers, including providing adequate staff to police the premises, not tolerating disorderly conditions, and stopping fights as soon as they break out. A new Billings Police Department program will use citizen cameras to aid detectives in investigations. Some 200 Billings residents and businesses are already signed up to allow access to police of cameras set up in the area. Our Kelsey Marison speaks to one business owner whose cameras have captured crucial footage more than once.
While it may not have been a common sight just a few years ago, doorbell cameras like these are all over Billings, helping to steer away criminals and investigators to solve crimes.
The guy made the decision to go in, just grab the bike quick, took off with it, and it happened just super quickly.
Fighting crime in the 21st century takes more than just officers on the street.
Fortunately, in Billings, Montana, which is still kind of a small town, if you get a good picture of somebody's face, somebody's going to know him.
Yes, cameras are catching crooks, making thefts at businesses like this one hard to pull off.
We posted it on Facebook, and within 24 hours, we had the bike back and the guy was arrested.
Dean Cromwell is the owner of the Spoke Shop and has seen criminal activity on his surveillance cameras more times than he can count.
Unfortunately, our little town's getting a little too big. There's lots more crime than we realize.
But a new program from the Billings Police Department could aid investigators called Project Eyes on the Block.
The Project Eyes on the Block is a program to find out people in their neighborhoods that have doorbell cameras, cameras on the outsides of their houses.
The project, launched last Thursday, already has 154 residents and businesses signed up to participate.
In case a crime happens in the neighborhood, they can look on that database and say, oh, somebody at this address has a camera. They go knock on that door and they see if they can have that camera footage to look at.
The database will be for officer use only, with the goal of solving crimes throughout town.
Somebody gets something stolen from their business and we're able to look at the video footage at their business and try and track down, a still photo of that person. We'll put it on our bulletin board at the police station, and somebody generally knows who these people are that we work with.
Using technology to make Billings a bit safer, one camera at a time.
What do they say? A picture's worth 1,000 words, so a video's worth 1,000,000 words, I guess, right?
In Billings, Kelsey Marison, MTN News.
A man accused of threatening to kill Montana U.S. Senator John Tester has been denied release from jail. During a detention hearing, Magistrate Judge Kathleen DeSoto denied Kevin Patrick Smith's release, citing community safety. DeSoto said there's clear and convincing evidence establishing that no condition or combination of conditions will reasonably assure the safety of the community if Smith were released. Smith has been remanded to the custody of the United States Marshal pending further proceedings. Smith's accused of leaving several threatening messages on Senator Tester's voicemail at his Kalispell office, including several coming after the FBI warned him to stop.
The snow water equivalent is the amount of moisture that's up in the mountains if you melted all the snow, and eventually it will, and start to stream down into the creeks and streams and rivers by the time we get into spring. As we get into March, which is the meteorological beginning of spring, we're in pretty good shape as far as the amount of snow that's up in the mountains, anywhere from 83% to 124%. But as we get into March, some good news. We're running about a 40 to 50% chance of a wetter than average March, so we could add that additional snowpack in as we start getting into the next month. Plus, we're looking at colder than average temperatures, a 50 to 60% chance of that happening. Take a closer look at the forecast in a minute.
Wheatland Memorial Healthcare has received a $19 million federal grant to build a new hospital and rural healthcare clinic in Harleton. According to a news release from Wheatland and the USDA, that grant will pay for most of the 38,000 square foot critical access hospital and clinic, which would serve about 2,600 people in the area. The hospital is launching a $1 million capital campaign to pay for the last chunk of that $20 million facility, which is expected to open in December of 2024. The new facility will feature state-of-the-art medical equipment and a modern space to create a comfortable healing environment. Wheatland Memorial Healthcare, a member of the Billings Clinic affiliate network, opened back in 1951 and has expanded several times over 70 years. Tonight, a perspective to inspire you about the place we call home. We're honoring the last day of Black History Month with an honest conversation where no question is off the table. Andrea Lutz sat down with 4 influential Black leaders in our community to learn what we're all really seeking is connection and respect.
Some say Billings is a really big, small town where good people are worth getting to know. In Montana, a look in the eye and a firm handshake is a good place to start a conversation. What brought you to Billings?
My career brought us here, and we decided to make it home. It was divine intervention. I felt like this was a place I knew I needed to be.
Come together. These are some of the brightest minds in our community. William and Yolanda Henry, Clark Sturgis, and Theo Johnson. What does inclusion mean to you?
Being asked to dance once you get to the dance, right? And so a lot of times we talk about that word and we use it, and I think communities have a social responsibility to ask, metaphorically, people to dance.
An answer Henry hopes will open minds in a community that's predominantly white. Just 1% of those living in Billings are African American.
I think understanding an individual's lens is important, right? So when you've never had to deal with something, then it's not our expectation that you would know how to deal with it.
For Yolanda Henry, inclusion begins with awareness. Awareness of what we all share in common and what we don't.
It's one of the struggles. Before I moved here, I would go to the hairdresser once a week and I would get my hair done however I chose to. It takes effort on my part to reach out to people to ask, like, do you know how to do my hair? Like, you know, and then you also have a certain amount of, like, do I want to let them try to do my hair?
But the differences run much deeper than hair, and so do life experiences. But do you ever feel like you've been discriminated against?
Here, I think systemic oppression is intentional. And I think that it's something that we have to consistently work at, right? Race is a thing because somebody made it a thing.
This group has encountered situations most of us will never have to worry about and forced to have difficult conversations with their children that no parent should have to. A conversation most simply referred to as the talk.
The talk is so ingrained, we don't even think about it. Like if I'm gonna get pulled over by anybody, my first response is, how do I get home?
Is today about to be that day? Is he going to be that kind of officer today? Who am I getting?
You know, I'm going to go on the other side of that for a second because I think it's super important. Super important. There are a lot of great officers. There are a lot of great officers, and there are a lot of great officers of color and non-color. And by the way, there are a lot of bad officers because at the end of the day, we're people.
And it's conversations like this that lead them to reflect on the next generation.
When I look at how my daughter navigates a system right now, right, where there is literally very minimal conversation about the conversation that we're having currently right now, they just live.
The conversation coming down to these simple things, respect and connection.
When you tell somebody that, I don't see color, you're cutting off half of who they are, right? What you want to be saying to them is that I respect all people the same. That's a different statement.
These conversations are how we all gonna grow. You know what I mean? Without these conversations, we're all left to our own devices.
Perhaps Billings really is a place where good people are worth getting to know. Perhaps we can rely on the things that unite us to shake open the beauty in the things that make us diverse.
Well, that was just a small portion of our conversation. You can watch our full hour-long discussion right now on the Q2 streaming app. Well, still to come on tonight's MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2, an eastern Montana family is in crisis after their toddler was badly burned. We'll tell you the details and show you how the community is rallying. And later, more housing could soon be headed to the West End, but not everyone is happy about it. We'll be right back.
The MTN 10 o'clock news continues right after this. From Montana's news leader, you're watching the MTN 10 o'clock news.
A nearly 2-year-old Ekalaka boy is at the Salt Lake City Burn Center tonight after accidentally pouring boiling water on himself this weekend. But now the community has come together, showing their support in more ways than one. Charlie Kleps has the story in tonight's Your Health Matters.
Nearly 2-year-old Eben Whitney is improving every single day after he suffered burns to nearly 15% of his body. It all happened when he managed to grab a hot cup of water that turned dangerous in a second.
Seeing how bad it was because his skin was, the layers were coming off.
It was a sight and sound Casey Whitney will never forget. Her 1-year-old son, Eben, reeling in pain from second-degree burns.
He screamed and I screamed, and then my other son, Eli, who's 4, said, "What happened? What happened?" And I didn't know how to respond. I was just freaking out.
Casey had boiled water for a cup of noodles when Eben knocked the styrofoam cup off of the counter and onto himself. The family rushed him to the clinic in Ekalaka.
I cried a lot while I was there, and I finally had to leave the room when they were working on him and sit with my other son just because he didn't know what was going on either.
From there, little Eben was flown directly to the burn unit in Salt Lake City. Eben's father, Seth, was out of town at his parents in Miles City, unable to help.
I always feel like I'm the provider and the calm one, and it was hard because I don't like situations that I can't do anything about, and I was in Miles City. I couldn't help her. I couldn't help him.
Casey is still in Salt Lake City and Seth in Ekalaka, but Eben is going to be okay. His mother is with him as he preps for a minor procedure that will help with the skin regrowth process.
Like I said, I want him home, but I want him to be healthy and ready to come home when he needs to. So
the Whitneys both work in the Ekalaka school system, and from the classroom to the community, the town has rallied to support them. In less than 2 days, a GoFundMe page has raised $19,000 to help with expenses.
It's one of those things where in the midst of tragedy, sometimes you see the most good in people.
A gesture neither one of these parents say they'll ever forget.
You know, there's people out there that are taking care of this, so it means a lot.
In Ekalaka, Charlie Kleps, MTN News.
Ed's joining us again. Weather's been pretty nice this week.
That's right. We've had some storms off into the east, but the mountain's beautiful today as we saw a great opportunity to go out for a little cross-country skiing. Thanks, Gene, for sharing that one at weather@ktvq.com. We'll break down the rest of the week's forecast next.
The MTN 10 o'clock news continues right after this.